What if I told you the next 30 days could flip the entire XRP story on its head? Just imagine watching a single candle on a chart do in 1 month what most coins fail to do in an entire year. Okay, let's unwind that bombshell for just a second. Today we're going to be diving into a pattern. So weirdly kind of precise, it feels like crypto gods penciled it into the charts back in 2017 and just hit repeat every few years. Now I've spent the last week kind of nerding out over 6 tiny triangles or rectangles, monthly candles on the XRP's chart, and that kind of might actually be gearing us up to launch us kind of from the sleepy $2 range to a mind-bending $17. And if that doesn't sound wild enough, the same setup points to a second blast that could rocket past $50. So stick around, because by the end, you're going to see why I've already set a reminder for the 1st of next month and why you might want to as well. Oh, and here's a quick heads up. If you ever wanted to kind of dissect moves like this in real time, hop into our free crypto Discord server. The link is in the description down below, right? The community's blowing up faster than some meme coins, and you're welcome to grab a front row seat. Okay. So here's where the rabbit hole starts. Back in mid-January, XRP punched through a 7-year high, right? Tagging $3.30 and sending group chats everywhere into full caps hysteria. Then the market turned into that kind of one roller coaster that you regret the second that it crests the hill. February, down 39%. March, another dip, though just kind of a timid 2.5% or so. April, flattish, like the kind of a heart monitor right before the nurse yells clear. Now traders went from screaming to the moon to whispering, is this still on? Now, but behind that kind of polite, I guess, monotone, something oddly familiar was kind of stalking the charts. Enter 𝗕𝗙𝗃, a market analyst whose Twitter threads read like thriller novels for chart geeks. Now, he noticed the XRP sliding neatly inside a long-term macro channel, a kind of price tunnel, with steel reinforced boundaries that kind of that the asset kind of has respected for almost a decade. So picture kind of a bowling alley bumpers then, right? Price action bounces between them, sometimes flirting with disaster, sometimes hitting strikes. Now, that kind of smack bang in the middle of that channel, of course, every few years, XRP kind of prints a 6-candle pattern above the 21-month EMA that kind of looks suspiciously like a coiled spring. So let's time travel to 2017 for just a second. March to May that year, XRP popped 801%. There's no typo there, right? 801. Cue confetti, right? Then, of course, it just chilled, right? July printed a gruesome 34% red candle, ouch. And August reversed the kind of pain with a 58% bounce. September ripped 23% back down. October looked like it wanted to kind of moonwalk higher, but kind of stalled, finishing almost flat. November nudged up 19%, just enough to kind of make people cancel their kind of panic sell orders. And then December, the 6th candle, tore a 746% hole in the ceiling, catapulting XRP into legend, right? 6 candles, green, 3 red, and 1 life-changing finale. Fast forward to last November, XRP jumped 283% in just a single month. Bingo, the first candle. December, up 6.4%. January, a huge 46% surge that kind of had half of crypto Twitter, chest bumping. February, down 30%. March, down another 2.56%. April, just finished, clawed back a modest 4.8%. We're now 5 candles deep, mirroring the 2017 dance almost step for step. Now, if the pattern keeps behaving, well, May is set to be the blockbuster, the so-called mega monthly candle. Target, $17. So from today's kind of, let's say, 220, that's a 672% hop. Basically, it's like finding an elevator in a building that you thought only had stairs. Now, before we kind of cannonball into predictions, let's talk about why all of this matters beyond the kind of adrenaline rush. In markets, history doesn't just rhyme. Sometimes it plasters the same kind of lyric on the kind of billboard twice. Now, when a pattern repeats on a big time frame, monthly candles, no less, then you're looking at thousands of traders reacting in a very similar psychological kind of cycles. It's panic, relief, disbelief, greed, and it's collective emotion frozen in digital ink. Now, that 21-month EMA acts like a reality check. Stay above it long enough, and the crowd starts trusting the trend again. And that's wild, or at least what's wild, is that XRP isn't just above that line. It's surfing it like a pro. But here's the catch. And every kind of good story needs one, right? $17, it sounds heavenly unless you've spent years hearing price, targets that kind of never arrive, right? Maybe you bought XRP at the last cycle high, watched it bleed for seasons, and promised yourself never again. Maybe you're brand new, wondering if you've missed the bus or if the bus ever actually shows up at all. Fear and FOMO wrestle like two kids fighting over the front row seat, right? Add regulatory curveballs, remember 2020's SEC lawsuit, and you've got the drama fuel for a Netflix series. And still, data is data, and 𝗕𝗓𝗔𝗡𝗡𝗏's channel doesn't stop at $17, right? If that price pierces the channel's upper wall, history suggests another psychological milestone: price discovery. So in simple words, once an asset breaks a multi-year ceiling, traders stop looking left on the chart for resistance because, well, there is none. And when that's kind of when the momentum eats fundamentals, I guess, for breakfast. Now, 𝗕𝗓𝗔𝗡𝗏 pencils the kind of next station at $55, a further 223% beyond $17. At that point, early investors won't need coffee, right? Their heart rates will supply the caffeine. So let me paint a human picture of that then, right? I called a buddy last year when XRP was grinding sideways at 65 cents. He sighed, muttered something about dead money, and, shifted his focus to shiny new AI coins. Fast forward to today, he's flipping through old wallets like a kid checking couch cushions for pennies. If $17 becomes reality, those forgotten bags, they morph into a down payment on a beachfront condo. And if $55 lands, well, good luck getting him on the phone. He'll be too busy picking marble countertops. But charts are not prophecy, right? They're probability. So what could derail the 6-candle rocket then? Well, first, you've got Bitcoin potentially sneezing. If BTC decides to cliff dive, alts usually follow like lemmings. Second, another regulatory kind of meteor from the SEC, though recent court skirmishes suggest XRP's legal storm clouds are thinning. Then third, you got plain old market fatigue. Sometimes traders front run a pattern so aggressively that they burn it out before it actually fully forms. And that said, the past 5 months have marched the kind of, or at least matched the 2017 kind of cadence, almost beat for beat, despite constant micro thunderstorms, if you will, which kind of gives this setup a spooky edge of inevitability. Now, let's get into the tactical, or get tactical with numbers, right? Because, abstract percentages, they feel real only when you actually quantify them, right? If you hold 1,000 XRP at $2.20, right? That's $2,200 position. A move to $17 turns that into, $17,000. Hitting $55 balloons it to a whopping $55,000. That's not yacht money, sure, but definitely life upgrade money. Student loans vaporized, a used Tesla in the driveway, or maybe that Bali kind of workcation that you've kind of been daydreaming about while refreshing TradingView. Right? And if you're kind of thinking, but what if it doesn't happen? It's fair, right? That's kind of where risk management steps in, right? Never bet the rent, always kind of scale out of profits, right? And keep emotions on a leash. They're simple rules, but forever ignored. Now, one wrinkle that people forget is liquidity, right? A mega candle isn't just big buyers piling in, it's a shortage of sellers. So picture a stadium exit where doors suddenly swing half size, right? The crowd jams, prices sprint, and in late 2017, exchanges, literally froze under XRP's volume surge. Now, if we're kind of lining up for a sequel, well, make sure that your accounts are verified, your withdrawal methods tested, and that your nerves are kind of premeditated, right? You can test out all the different exchanges that we use using the links in the description down below. Join us in our free Discord server that I mentioned earlier, and we have a whole host of tutorial guides on how to test and set up these exchanges. There's nothing worse than basically not being in a good place when the time comes, because there's just absolutely nothing worse than watching green numbers while starting at a kind of processing kind of screen spinning around with no idea as to what is going on. Let's zoom out to why XRP specifically attracts those dramatic cycles then. Unlike pure hype coins, XRP's utility mantra has always been bank rails, cross-border settlements faster than you can type Swift. And while critics debate decentralization, Ripple Labs has scored partnerships with everyone from Santander to tiny remittance shops in rural Asia. Utility alone, of course, doesn't trigger parabolic charts. Emotion does. But when sentiment lights up, real-world use cases pour gasoline on the fire. So think of it like a musician dropping a viral TikTok hit the same week that their album goes platinum. Momentum kind of squared. Speaking of momentum, social sentiment trackers kind of show XRP mentions spiked 38% this April, even though price barely budged. Now that's a classic signal, right? Attention building before price chases it. Google Trends is quietly creeping higher for XRP mega candle and XRP $17 searches. Now we've been there before, right? In December 2017, search volumes for buy XRP maxed out just days before the coin's all-time high. Patterns inside patterns, like Russian nesting dolls made of FOMO. So let's pause for a quick breather and talk mindset. Right? If you're new and your brain's screaming, "This sounds too good," well, good, right? Skepticism is a survival trait in crypto. My strategy: treat wild targets like optional kind of side quests, not the main story objectives. Now I mark ladder exits, take 20% profit at $5, another chunk at $10, and then I kind of speculate, and kind of spectate, I guess, actually the fireworks from with kind of house in the money, essentially, right? And anything beyond that is kind of like the icing on a cake, if you will. And, I discuss each of these adjustments, and, inside our kind of paid membership as well. So you can check that out. And our free Discord server, which of course you can find the link for in the description down below. Your future self might actually thank you if you go ahead and hit that join button. All right. Back to the firework finale then, the climax that we've been teasing here. The 6th candle's due to open in just a few days, right? If price starts sprinting early May, Watch the weekly closes, right? Holding above $5 will tell institutions the move is legit. While real kind of spectacle though, of course, is if the volume eclipses the 2017's kind of blow off top. That would confirm not just, real hype, but heavyweight funds piling in, something that we didn't have last cycle. Now remember, derivative markets for XRP are 10 times deeper than they were 8 years ago. Leverage cuts both ways, but used wisely, it can accelerate price discovery beyond the nostalgic kind of comparisons. Picture just checking coin market cap on the May 31st and seeing XRP kind of ticker at $17. Headlines everywhere, Ripple's revenge, XRP obliterates meme coin mania, banks rush pilot programs. Social feeds would just go molten, right? Some folks will brag about laser-eyed profile pictures, others will cry scam, but the data will care zero about feelings. And if 𝗕𝗓𝗪's second stage kicks in, well, you might wake up a few months later to a $55 ticker and an avalanche of mainstream coverage. That's when people kind of swore off crypto 2 winters ago, kind of knock on your DMs asking how to get in. Cue deja vu, cue your polite kind of smile. But let's ground ourselves. Markets breathe in waves. Even if $17 lands, quick retracements are normal. In 2017, after that 746% candle, XRP dumped 65% in a month before stabilizing. A roller coaster, like I said earlier. Surfers don't curse the ocean for giving them rough waves. They learn to ride or they kind of sit on the beach. Now, if you're not emotionally ready to watch your portfolio halve on the path to tripling, well, index funds kind of exist for a reason. So, what do you do right now? Well, first, sanity check your allocation. If XRP mooning would kind of tempt you to quit your job tomorrow, you're probably overexposed. Second, track that kind of 6 candle formation like a hawk. Screenshots of monthly charts, mark each kind of candle, tape it onto your fridge, if you will. Whatever helps you kind of internalize the pattern without letting kind of Twitter hot takes domino your decisions. And third, leverage community, right? I lean on a group insights because, 20 kind of sets of eyes kind of catch what one might miss. So again, our Discord's completely free. Its conversations are 24/7, and you can lurk or rant as much as needed. There's a link in the description. So here we are on the edge of candle 6. Maybe it fizzles, maybe it rips. Either way, we're living through the story in real time, and that's half the thrill. Keep your strategy sober, your tabs refreshed, and your humor intact. Whatever happens, we're going to be talking through every tick inside the Discord. Even if history even only half repeats, the next few weeks are going to be spicy.